Hi, I'm Chris McBrien, a Gen-Xer, and the pop culture from my generation is awesome.
And I'm Yancy Eaton, a Millennial, and the pop culture from my generation is dope.
Episode 17, Sports Movies. Hey, this is Pop Culture World. I'm Chris McBrien, along with Yancy Eaton. As always, we got a great episode this week. Yancy, what's going on in pop in your world this week, my friend?
Well, I mentioned last week that Run the Jewels is dropping a new mixtape any day. It still hasn't come out yet, but I'm still super amped about that. One of my favorite groups is Animals as Leaders. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're a progressive metal band. They're strictly instrumental. It's one of the just most insane trio of guitarists and drummer. It's actually two guitarists, but one of them, they play like a 6-string and it's tuned super low, so it sounds like a bass guitar. But some of just the most insane guitar riffs and drumming and just syncopated rhythms and stuff like that you can possibly imagine. Their new album drops on the 11th, so I already have it pre-ordered. They dropped one of the tracks is available on YouTube you can listen to. So I've been listening to that over and over again, which is super dorky. They're not a big band. I don't think they're very well known, but I'm just obsessed with them. And I mentioned Two Door Cinnamon Club last week. It's kind of like a indie pop group from the UK. I've been listening to them a lot too, but other than that, not a whole lot of real movies. I've been super busy, and of course watching the World Series, which was just so good. It was so good to us, and happy for the Cubs fans, happy for the Indians fans. That was a fantastic season. I'm really sad that baseball's over for the next couple months. Everybody knows that you and I are huge baseball fans and stuff, but yeah. Anyways, what are you up to? What's new in your life as far as pop culture?
Well, I started up a page of YouTube videos of stuff that we mention here on the show. So if you go to popcultureworld.com, you'll see there's a YouTube link right there in the middle of the page. Like if you're on mobile, I think it's more down at the bottom. But you can't miss it because it shows Sebastian Shaw as Anakin Skywalker at the end of the original Return of the Jedi. That's the video that we've got queued up for it. If you want to see some of the things we mention here on the podcast every week, like last week we were talking about Tom Green rapping and Check the OR, or if you want to see like Amazing Larry and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you can make sure to go over and check that out. So just go to popcultureworld.com, look for the link for YouTube favorites, and a lot of stuff that we talk about here on the show you can go and see. So that's one cool thing. So this week I think it should be pretty cool. And this week we're going to talk about sports movies. So you mentioned right off the top there, you and I are both big baseball fans. Everyone knows that from our old podcast. So we thought we would be an interesting topic this week to talk about some of our favorite movies of all time that involve sports. Are you ready to get started?
I am more than ready. Let's do this.
Let's go. We've got Avatar, Titanic, T2,
Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
But here's the spin on it.
I've never actually seen True Lies.
The best scene in the movie isn't CG because it's with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Toy Story 3 made me cry.
That's the one with Tom Cruise, right?
Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Imagination is where the real power is when it comes to movie magic. Okay, so before we get started, I did want to mention a couple of honorable mentions that didn't make, because we're going to do our top 5 list like we do every week. The ones that just, a couple of honorable mentions for me, just right off the top, because I know people might write in and stuff. Hoosiers, I think I'd like to mention, it just fell outside of my top 5. Bull Durham. Major League didn't make my top 5, believe it or not. The Longest Yard, that one's the one from 74. That's from my buddy Mike Gibbons, by the way. And, of course, my favorite basketball movie of all time, The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. But those are my honorable mentions. But anyway,
I actually have a couple honorable mentions too. We didn't talk about doing this, but I was going to throw some out
good.
too.
Who do you got?
The Sandlot just missed it for me. That's going to piss a lot of people off. The Mighty Ducks, another fantastic movie, and Cinderella Man with Russell Crowe.
Oh yes, that was shot.
Very good, very good sports movie. Cool. But those not quite good enough to make the list, but still fantastic films that you guys should all see.
I absolutely agree. So speaking of the list, we'll start at number 5. Yancy, what do you got? Take us away.
All right. I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this. So number 5, I had to include this just because I like talking about things that had a big part of my childhood. And this movie, for whatever reason, I remember being in elementary school, and it was every single time we had a substitute teacher, or we were supposed to have like a field day and it got rained out, or anything you can think of like that. Like say there was somebody called in like a bomb threat or something, and they had to have everybody go into the auditorium. There was always one of 2 things that we would watch. One was Bill Nye the Science Guy. Well, actually, I should say 3. The other one was the Magic School Bus, and third was Cool Runnings.
Oh my, with John Candy. Oh
yes, right. Cool Runnings is one of the more underrated movies. Obviously, I hope you guys have seen it, but if you hadn't, honestly, it's about a Jamaican bobsled team. It's about a Jamaican sprinter. He's disqualified from the Olympic Games, so he basically enlists the help of, this coach who's kind of like he's cast aside. He's like this dishonored coach, and they start the first Jamaican bobsled team, and it's just like one of the kookiest. I don't know. It's weird. It's funny. I've probably watched it 50 times in my entire life, and it has one of the best, trademarks. I wanted to get this tattooed, but I don't think my wife would go for me. But the feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. I think that is like the most perfect, like, esoteric comment. Like, can you imagine having that like tattooed on your wrist or something like that? People would just think that it's some sort of like, really emotional kind of like, like punk rock type lyric. But no, it's literally from Cool Runnings, a movie about a Jamaican bobsled team. I just love the film so much. It's such a unique premise. Whoever wrote it is super, super clever. So it's my number 5.
Very cool. When it first came out, it was like back in '93. At the time, it was the highest grossing live action film ever released by Walt Disney.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, no, because they always did animated films up until that point, right? So
yeah. Oh wow, that's really wild.
Okay, so my number 5, it's a football movie, Yancy. I don't know a whole lot about football. Okay, I'm not a big football guy, but I tell you, my number 5 movie has to do with football, and it's from 1978. It's called Heaven Can Wait. It's based on the 1941 film Here Comes Mr. Jordan. So Warren Beatty is it. He plays Joe Pendleton. He's a quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. And one day he's out exercising. He's riding his bike, okay? And he goes into this tunnel and he gets hit by a car. He goes up to heaven. And as he's just about to go into heaven, to go past the pearly gates, it turns out he's not supposed to be there. See, he's got this guardian angel that jumped the gun. So this guardian angel, he wanted to save Joe, like the pain of the crash. So he took him out of his body just a few seconds early. But since he's an athlete, he's got great reflexes, and he would have maneuvered like out of the way, and at the last second he would have avoided the crash. It wasn't his time to die. So the guy in charge at the gate makes the angel take Joe back down to earth and put him back in his body right away. So they go back down, but they realize his body's been cremated. So they put him in the body. Oops, exactly. So they put him in the body of this older kind of rich tycoon guy that just got poisoned. And so he comes back to life, and he uses his wealth to buy the Rams, and then he moves them to St. Louis. No, I'm just totally kidding. No, he buys the Rams, and he trains them to become the quarterback of the team and lead them to the Super Bowl. So now, work with me on this. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a fantastic movie, Yancy. It is fantastic. It was nominated for 10 Oscars in '78, including.
Excuse me?
Yep, including
Seriously?
Best Picture. Yep. And like I said right at the top, I'm not a huge football fan, but when it comes to movies based on football, this one is my absolute favorite.
Chris, this has completely escaped like my consciousness. I've never heard of this film. I've never seen it. I've never heard anybody else talk about it. That's insane.
Yep, I'm telling you, if you get a chance to watch it, you'll be like, holy smokes, is this ever good? I think you'd really, really enjoy it.
All right, that was your number 5.
Number 5. What's your number 4?
So number 4 for me, one of the greatest films ever written. IMDb is painfully low on this. They give it a 6.7 out of 10 out of 187,000 votes. If there's one thing I love, it's underdog stories, and this one is a true underdog story, as it says in the title. Do you know what movie I'm talking about?
Is it Dodgeball?
It's Dodgeball.
Oh, a true underdog story. He throws the hammer at him. Yeah.
It's just great. I mean, obviously, it stars Vince Vaughn and Ben Stiller. I'm looking right now what time it came out in 2004. It is a fantastic film. Okay, obviously, just to give you guys like a little bit of a background, a group of like weirdos, basically, they enter this dodgeball tournament in Las Vegas. They're trying to keep their gym from being closed and taken over by like the evil corporate health fitness chain that's run by Ben Stiller. And so it's basically the team of average Joes is what they're called versus Ben Stiller's like super athletic pump tools that are called the Purple Cobras. And it's just. I don't even know where to start as far as like quotes or anything like that with this movie, but I've said this a bunch of times. Anytime something ever happens where like somebody does really something stupid in either real life or in a movie, or if you're watching a game and somebody makes like a really bad decision, I like to always say like that's a bold strategy, Cotton, or interesting strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for them. Or the trademark "nobody makes me bleed my own blood." There's so many different parts of this movie, and again, like with Cool Runnings, when it comes to movies like this, like obviously it's funny and I laugh the entire time, but bigger scale, more macro is just the fact that it's incredibly it's such a weird movie. Like, the entire premise around the film is totally original. Like, there's not another movie out there that's based around, like, adults playing dodgeball, basically. Like, it's just it's funny, and I've watched it a million times. I'll continue to watch it. I don't think I actually own it right now, but I should actually buy it. My birthday's coming up. But Dodgeball is number 4 for me. I mean, it should be higher, to be honest with you, if you went by sheer enjoyment, how much I enjoy watching and how many times I've watched it. But there are some other movies I think I had to throw in there just because they are a little bit more serious, I think, and more people kind of latch onto them. But I absolutely love Dodgeball.
Well, I agree. I'm going to go with a comedy myself at this point. And I agree with you that, the comedy movies related to sports are some of the best ones. This one has to do with golf, and it's Caddyshack from 1980. I don't even know where to start with this movie. So I've mentioned before, I love the classic comedies like from the 70s and 80s, and this one makes my list for the best of those. So it's like, let's take a bunch of caddies and let's put them together with Ted Knight and Chevy Chase and Rodney Dangerfield. Oh man, he's so awesome in this movie. Bill Murray's in it. Bill Murray is like this psychopathic groundskeeper. He's like obsessed with killing this one gopher. And the thing is, it's one of those R-rated comedies that we've talked about on a previous show. There's profanity, there's nudity, there's like scatological humor in the form of a chocolate bar that gets thrown into a swimming pool. It is without a doubt the funniest film ever made about sports. I've probably seen it more than 20 times. I could watch it another 20, no doubt. Yancy, have you ever seen Caddyshack?
I have not. I know this is going to just awake the masses, but yeah, I've never seen Caddyshack.
I'm going to challenge you to watch Caddyshack and get back to me. Trust me, you will not regret it. That's my number 4. On to 3.
What is your favorite line from Caddyshack?
Oh boy, there's a lot. There's actually, what my favorite line isn't even really a line. It's okay. So there's a scene where Chevy Chase is out playing golf at night. Okay, and he's out by himself on the golf course, and he has a shot and it hooks. Okay, and it goes into like this shed, and it breaks a window. So he goes into the shed. Well, lo and behold, he walks in. And this is where Bill Murray lives, in this shed. He's like this homeless guy, like working on the grounds. And so Bill Murray is there, and it's the whole scene between him and Bill Murray, because Bill Murray has got a table and there's grass on it, and he's like, yeah, like it's a cross between like German Sensimilla and Kentucky bluegrass, and then you can like play 9 holes on it and then just get like stoned at the bejesus. And then they have this conversation, and one of my favorite things is in the middle of the conversation, Bill Murray just turns and just spits this huge hork spit like on his floor. It's like that's what he thinks of his house. Like, it's just, I don't know, the whole scene to me, it's just hilarious. I love that movie, man. Love it. So I would challenge you to watch it, and you'll have to get back to me on that one. But that's my number 4. So on to 3.
So that actually is a really nice segue into my film, because it also has Bill Murray, and it's Space Jam. So Space Jam is one of the more controversial films because it's hard to be lukewarm on Space Jam. Either you absolutely love it because you grew up with it, and it had Michael Jordan in it, obviously, and it had Bill Murray, and it had a ton of other professional basketball players, or you hated it because it was either you were too old to get it, or you kind of seen it as really horrible writing, which I admit there are some really cheesy lines and stuff like that, but I absolutely love Space Jam. I mean, anytime you can have like Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing and Muggsy Boggs and Larry Johnson and like I said, Michael Jordan, all against Looney Tunes, basically. You have Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and again, really interesting premise. They're playing basketball, they're fighting aliens, the Monstars, whatever. They're defending the planet, basically, so they don't have to go off to Moron Mountain and become basically like corporate slaves and be like this huge drawing attraction for another intergalactic theme park, basically. It's just a really weird movie. It's one of those things when you look back and it's like, how did this get made? You know what I mean? Like, it's like Kazam. You remember Kazam with Shaq?
Oh yeah.
Man, we got to do a special on just that movie.
Oh,
that's a weird movie. But I mean, Space Jam, obviously the soundtrack is fantastic. It has like Steve Miller Band and Quad City DJs, and they got Be Real and Coolio and Method Man and LL Cool J. Like a lot of money went into this film, with licensing and getting all these professional athletes on it and stuff like that. It's just one of those films where it's so 90s, and looking back at it, like I said, there's a lot of parts that doesn't really hold up, but it's just like this perfect little like time capsule of how movies like were made in the early 90s. And I don't think a movie like that will ever be made again. There was some talks that LeBron James was going to be in Space Jam 2. I'm not sure if that actually got shelved or not, if it's going to go through production. A part of me kind of wishes it doesn't. see the light of day, basically, because like I said, I just think that premise was just so unique and it was so fun, and I just love Space Jam, and I don't care what that makes me. I mean, it's the type of movie where, like, if you go to Walmart, you'll look in like the dollar DVD bins and you'll always see Space Jam in there, like right next to like Flubber. But I really love me some Space Jam, Chris.
There you go. Okay. So my number 3, as you know, I'm Canadian, so I certainly just couldn't go and list off my favorite sports movies without mentioning hockey, right? But luckily, this is not just like a token entry in the list, because it is absolutely one of the greatest sports movies all time. It's about hockey, and it's Slapshot from 1977. So, if you're not familiar with the movie Yancy, it's about the Charlestown Chiefs, okay? So there's this losing team in this minor professional league, and the team's about to fold, okay? So the player coach decides, hey, I got an idea. Let's start fighting during games in order to like drum up interest in the team, like among fans, in hopes of keeping the team going, right? And the player coach, it's Reggie Dunlop. He's played by Paul Newman, of all people. And you got to, Paul Newman is basically a legend in Hollywood. He's had an amazing career as an actor, but I got to tell you, he's never been better than he was in this movie. It's my opinion, it was his best performance ever, because instead of just playing it for straight laughs, he embodies like this idea of like an aging guy that's like holding on to his dreams. He dreams about success in hockey. He dreams about putting his marriage back together. And the thing is, like, he knows that the stuff that he's holding on to is going to fail. It's just an incredible performance. It's one you usually don't find in a comedy, but even as much as the movie is about kind of losers and pathos and stuff, it's also really, really, really funny. There's in the opening scene, so the movie opens up, Yancy, it's this French player, and he's getting interviewed. And the interviewer's like interviewing about different penalties in hockey, and he's like, well, slashing happened when, and he hits the guy on his shins. Like with his stick, he hits the interviewer, whacks him right on the shins. And the guy's like, oh, jeez. He's like, oh, no, you never do that, ever. You stupid when you do that. Some English pig with no brains, And if you do, then you go to the box for 2 minutes, and then you feel shame, and then you go free. And, it's hilarious. There's the Hanson brothers. You're probably familiar with them. So What they do is they bring these three brothers that basically fly around the ice and just beat the tar out of everything in their path. And the best scene is the Hansons basically beat the daylights out of the other team during the pregame skate. Okay? And then everyone lines up after the fight for the national anthem. And then the ref is looking over at Steve Hansen, and he's ticked, right? So he's like, look at him. And then the anthem's playing. And he just can't hold it anymore. And the ref skates over to him, and he's like, he starts chewing him out. He goes, you got to keep your cool, and blah, blah, blah. And Hansen just goes, I'm listening to the song. What can I say? It's hockey. It is a fantastic movie. That's my number 3.
Is that the type of film back in, Canada for you? Is it pretty relevant? Do people like it? Is it a really popular film there?
It's considered a classic by pretty much everyone in Canada. Yep, because it's about hockey, and it is a really good movie. And like I say, it's not just, they've made subsequent films. They've made Slapshot 2. I think they've made Slapshot 3. They've been terrible, straight to video. They're crap because they just don't embody all the values. And like I say, the idea of like a second-rate, lower league team trying to hold on to your dream of making it as a hockey player when it's not going to happen, I think relates to every single Canadian weekend warrior out there that plays hockey on the weekends and holds on to his dream of being in the NHL. So I think it's just really resonates with Canadians.
Very interesting pick. I will have to watch it. I think it's on Netflix, so I'll take a look. All right, so this next one, I'm going to read you really quickly the storyline to it that IMDb provides. So in the summer of 1976, a 30-year-old, okay, that's old in professional sports, a 30-year-old Vince Papali is having a tough run of luck. He's been working as a substitute teacher for 2 days a week, but has just found out that his job is being eliminated because of budget cuts. His wife gives up on him, saying he'll never amount to anything, and then she asks for a divorce. As an aside, he works as a bartender and plays football with his friends. When the new coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Dick Vermeil, announces that he'll hold open tryouts for the team, he reluctantly decides to give it a try. Spoiler alert, he makes the team. Have you seen this movie, Chris?
Is it For Love of the Game? Is that right? No. Is it The Rookie?
It's not The Rookie, no.
What the hell's the name of it? It's with, go ahead, tell me. It's with them.
It's with Marky Mark.
Oh, it's with Mark Wahlberg. Okay, no, I don't know.
Yeah, it's with Mark Wahlberg. I think it was in 2006. I think I had this written down, but no, I don't. Yeah, it's 2006. It's called Invincible, and it's literally like it says in this. It's about a 30-year-old guy who was, kind of like a big deal in his hometown. In high school, he was a really good athlete and stuff like that. He could run really fast, and he still plays pickup football games and stuff with his friends. But his life is kind of going nowhere, and by some act of faith, Dick Vermeil, who's like this West Coast stud, he's this stud head coach. He decides that, being the new head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, he's going to hold open tryouts. It was more so just to as a publicity stunt to kind of, fall in good favor with the town, to show hey, I respect you guys, and I'm including you guys in this and stuff like that. I understand that this is your team. I want to give you guys a chance. And long story short, he actually makes the team as a 30-year-old walk-on, playing on mostly special teams. And it's just like a perfect sports film, because I think it encapsulates what a lot of people do, where at least guys and stuff like that. I think anybody from age 20 to 40, where you had a little bit of athletic ability in high school, and for whatever reason, either you weren't talented enough, or you got injured, or you decided to start a family, or your professional life got in the way. Everybody still kind of dreams about being a professional athlete. Like Chris, if you could be a professional hockey player or a professional baseball player, you would jump at that opportunity in a second. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And this was an actual true story where Papali basically did it. Like I said, a 30-year-old guy who was a substitute teacher working in a bar. He tries out for a team and he makes it. I think he ended up playing 3 years. He even scored a touchdown at one point. It's just the perfect build up to something like a scenario that is so far fetched that is probably never going to happen again. But it did. It happened once, and it's just nice to dream on stuff like that. So I kind of saved the goofball movies for my 5 through 3. This one is obviously a really it makes me feel good inside. It makes me, as corny as it sounds, it's super encouraging, not just from an athletic standpoint, but kind of just hey, I can overcome a lot. I can do some great things if I really want to. So Invincible is my number 2, and I really want you to see it if you haven't seen it, Chris.
Okay, cool. Okay, my number 2, I always thought that there's a real connection between boxing and film. There's something special about boxing that just translates well to the big screen, because there's always drama inside and outside of the ring, and thematically you've got issues like masculinity and pushing physical limitations and mental strength, the pursuit of the American dream and all that other stuff. So I think there's a lot of good examples of great boxing movies out there. There's $1 Million Baby, Ali, and probably the biggest ever in Rocky, right? But my favorite of all time is Martin Scorsese's masterpiece, Raging Bull. De Niro has given some incredible performances throughout his career. Guy's a legend, right? But he has never been better than he was as Jake LaMotta. The title says it all. He's got this ferocity that propels him in the ring, but the thing is, it also drives him outside the ring as well. And the two worlds are completely intertwined. He's got this blinding jealousy, regarding his wife. In one scene, his wife says to him, she makes a comment that one of his opponents is good looking. Jake beats him literally to a pulp in the ring and turns to the crowd and just stares at his wife. It's intense. The boxing
that is savage.
The boxing scenes are the best ever shot. The camera, the one thing that Scorsese does is that he takes the camera right inside the ring. So unlike Rocky, if you watch Rocky, it's shot from outside the ring and low. In this movie, the camera's right inside the ring, and they used different size rings too, depending on the shot that they needed. They had an overly small, tiny ring that they would use to give the impression of claustrophobia at certain times. And Scorsese even uses huge rings to give the impression that the ring's bigger at times. He uses just really slightly different film speeds, to play up tension in the scenes. Usually it's 24 frames a second, but then he goes to 30 or 36 frames a second in some scenes. It's amazing. The film's about jealousy and fear and self-esteem. Boxing isn't even really the subject of the film. It's just the vehicle that's used to convey the emotions of the story. It is incredible. Number 2.
That was a very artistic way of you putting that, Chris.
Oh, thank you. It's an artistic film. It's shot in black and white. Came out in 1980, but they shot it in black and white.
It's black and white?
Yeah, they shot it in black and white for that reason, to be artistic as well, and to really play up all the metaphors of the black and white of what's going on. You want to talk about artistic, man? You got to see Raging Bull.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. I like The Hurricane a lot. I don't know if you've seen that with Denzel.
It's good. It's good, but it's no Raging Bull.
Yeah. It is funny what you were talking about, though, with like boxing movies. Like, for some reason, like that's one sport that does translate really well. Like,
it does.
I mean, there are so many boxing movies out there, and even if you think it's not like a fantastic movie, it's still like immensely watchable. Like, just boxing in general. Like, for some reason, I think because it's so primeval, it's so tribal. You know what I mean? It's just like one dude against another dude.
Yep.
And I don't know. I've always been able to relate to it. I used to love like boxing books and stuff like that when I was a kid. That was like my thing, which is like really weird. But anyway, so my number one film, it came out whenever I was 12 years old, so in 2000. I was actually playing Pop Warner football, and I loved this film. And I remember we were getting ready. We were undefeated at the time. I think we were like 6-0 or 7-0. And we were playing a really, really good local team that were kind of like our rivals because they were one of the closest teams in our area. They were the Fort Myers Rebels. We were the Riverdale Wildcats. And our coach told us, Coach Derry, he says, you know what, if you guys can beat the Rebels this week, I will take all of you to go see this film. And it was Remember the Titans. And it's I get goosebumps thinking about it just because it's, you know, we ripped off that film so bad. All the chants that they do, the pounding on the on the knee pads and the shoulder pads and stuff like that, you know, doing cadences and stuff with each other, all the chants and stuff. Like, we literally ripped it from this movie after we saw it, and you know, that carried on for 2 or 3 seasons afterwards. Have you seen the film, first off?
No, I have not, believe it or not.
Ah, Chris.
Sorry.
Gosh. Sometimes I just get so disappointed in you, I just don't know what to do.
I have that effect.
Meanwhile, I haven't seen like any top 100 film like ever. But anyways, so with Remember the Titans, basically it's based back in 1971 in Virginia, and the schools were still struggling in the state of Virginia with segregation and having to, you know, basically reintroduce, you know, split schools basically with, you know, black and white people. And so for the first time this year, 2 schools, because of budget cuts, had to merge together. And as a result, you had an all-white football team and an all-black football team that basically had to become one football team. And the white football team, the white football players were basically upset because, you know, obviously if you have 2 teams, that means you have 2 head coaches. The white head coach, who was like a multi-state championship winning coach, was basically like forced to leave because of, you know, affirmative action, or maybe that's not the right word to talk about, but just segregation laws in general. They implanted this black head coach to be the head coach of this school. So people are pissed off, obviously. So it's all about like, basically learning to accept people who look differently, than you as brothers and stuff like that. And there's just so many like really powerful scenes. Like, he's super, super hard on these guys during camp and stuff like that. And he's just running them to death. And they're still fighting, and, you know, they're refusing to sit next to each other at lunch, and there's hazing going on, and there's just a ton of just racial tension and stuff. And so he takes them on an early morning run, and they're running for miles and miles. And, you know, it's really starting to beat up on them. And then all of a sudden they are at a Civil War graveyard. And, you know, they had left for camp. I don't think they were actually, you know, in their hometown, wherever they had left to go to camp and stuff. And I think it may have even been Gettysburg. I can't even remember. But long story short, he took them to the site of a Civil War battlefield. And as soon as they see that, they know. And it's just like this just incredibly just transcendent moment, because he's basically telling them, like, the stuff that you guys are fighting about now, this was already fought for. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that like we could be working on together and building on. Like, we don't have to keep fighting this fight. It was already fought, and there was already a winner. You see what I'm saying? And like, these dudes go from being, you know, just complete enemies, mortal sworn enemies, sitting on opposite sides of the bus, sitting at different lunch tables, to becoming like brothers, where like they're telling each other that they love them. And just, I mean, it's like it's the ultimate just it's the ultimate feel good movie, Chris. I mean, I literally get like shakes. I get like this like tingy, you know, electric feeling whenever I see this movie, because like, you know, I played on just as a little bit of a background, I played on a football team where I was one of only 3 white kids. And everybody on my team, we were a really, really, really good local Pop Warner team from all levels, you know, from the little kids playing flag football all the way up to the seniors, you know, who I'm talking about, you know, multiple championships and stuff like that. And, you know, it was honestly one of the best things that ever happened to me, because these were super, super competitive people that loved football, that took it seriously from a very, very young age, right? Like, this is, you know, I live in the Deep South. This is where football is religion. You know what I mean? And it made me like incredibly, incredibly just hungry all the time as an athlete. And, I'm rambling at this point because I just don't want to stop talking about it, but it is such a beautifully well done movie. Obviously, it stars Denzel Washington. It has Will Patton as Coach Yost. there's a bunch of other actors in it, like Donald Faison from I just forgot what's the
Clueless?
No,
From Scrubs?
well,
Yep.
actually Scrubs.
Yep.
Nice job, Chris. You're so damn sharp.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, it's just such a great film. I'm not going to keep rambling about it, but it's one of my greatest films. It's one of those ones where I don't like to watch it a lot because this sounds super corny too, but I like for it to remain special. So I don't watch it like repeatedly all the time. That's kind of like Friday Night Lights too. That almost made my top 5, but man, is it a good movie? So that's my number 1 is Friday Night Lights.
Very good pick.
Remember the Titans.
Yeah, Remember the Titans. Oh, that's a great pick. Okay, so for my number 1, as many people might already know from us talking, previously, I love baseball. And so no real surprise, my favorite sports movie is going to be about baseball. There's been a lot of good ones. I mentioned Major League earlier. Man, the movie's so funny and eminently quotable. No two ways about it. But to me, no movie better represents baseball in its purest form than Field of Dreams. And I know some people have said like it's corny or it's trite or it's sentimental. That whole idea that, if you build it, he will come. It's not about building a baseball field so that Shoeless Joe will come back, but instead it's so his father will come back and he gets to play catch with him. I know it seems totally hokey, but I love it. And the movie to me embodies baseball. Because it moves along slowly but deliberately, and it brings complete strangers together. And it's about themes that are bigger than the game itself. Like when Doc Graham, Moonlight Graham, when he gets the chance to go back in time and play baseball again and get a second chance at the game he loves. But then he's forced with a choice because he has to decide if he's going to cross back over to help the little girl that's choking. And when he crosses the white line and he saves the girl, it's bigger than the game, right? He turns back, like he turns into an old man again, and he walks back onto the field. He walks past all the ball players, and they all thank him. And they're all paying their respects to him. And they're like, oh, man, really good job, way to go. And then Shoeless Joe says, hey, you were good. And he's not just talking about the kid being good at baseball. He's letting him know that he was a good man, and he led a good life. Man, I'm getting verklempt. Oh, my goodness, talk amongst yourselves. Oh, jeez. I'll give you a topic. Dancing with the Stars has neither dancing nor stars. Please discuss. It's an awesome movie. I love it. It's, like I say, you think it's sentimental, but it hits me. It hits all the right notes for me. It's just a metaphor for the game of baseball. I absolutely love it. It's my number 1 sports movie of all time. Okay, well, it's time now to mess with the Millennial. Yancy, are you ready to handle some trivia questions about sports movies this week?
I am ready to greatly disappoint our listeners. Yes, I'm ready.
All right, well, let's go.
Fun with Yancy.
Okay, in the history of the Academy Awards, Yancy, 3 sports films have walked away with the Oscar for Best Picture. Name just one of them.
The Wrestler.
I'll give you another shot at 3 movies have taken home the Oscar for Best Picture. Can you name any one of the 3 that are about sports in any way?
Rocky.
Right, congratulations. There we go. I give you a second chance and you got it. Yes, Rocky in 1976, Chariots of Fire in 1981, and Million Dollar Baby in 2004.
I actually should have known Million Dollar Baby because my wife and I were just talking about her.
Yeah, and well, that's from your time, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you an easy one for you. So it's a softball lob, all right? Okay, so in Moneyball, Billy Beane is the general manager of the Oakland Athletics.
Correct.
The movie ends with Billy Beane meeting with which other MLB team?
The Red Sox. Ding, ding, ding.
Yes, all right. In the 1976 film Rocky, which, as we know, won Best Picture Oscar, right? Mm-hmm. So in Rocky, what was the name of the champ that Rocky Balboa fights in the climactic final scene of the film?
I really should know this. This is like so bad. I can't remember. What is it?
Apollo Creed.
Yep, I knew that as soon as you said that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll stay with Apollo Creed here for a second. Carl Weathers, played Apollo Creed. He also appeared in another sports movie in 1996. This time, he played a character named Chubbs Peterson. Can you name the movie?
Chubbs Peterson.
Chubbs Peterson.
I can see his face, I can see his character, but I can't remember the name of the movie.
Damn alligator bit off my hand!
Oh, it's not Happy Gilmore, is it?
Yes,
No.
It is.
Yeah,
it's Happy Gilmore. Yes. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay.
Yes.
In this 2005 movie, you should be able to get this one, Yancy. Right up your alley. Okay, 2005 movie. In this movie, the script actually called for the Boston Red Sox to lose the World Series. However, after the team won the World Series in 2004, the script was changed. Can you name the movie?
Is it Fever Pitch?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen.
Shazam!
Whoa, breaking the goods. So you obviously saw the movie. You saw Fever Pitch?
I did. I think I saw it in theaters, actually.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
No, it wasn't. It was corny as hell.
You know what was a good sports movie, though?
No. What?
The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. Whoa, 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 whoa. At C. McBrien or at Yancy Eaton on Twitter. Chris or Yancy at popgoesyourworld.com. Thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thank you for listening to the Pop Goes Your World podcast. Continue the conversation on Twitter at C. McBrien or at Yancy Eaton. Please consider leaving a review for the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.